time to take that cool new DALLE interface that we've been seeing everywhere all over the internet and put it to the literary test with some quotes from a few of my favorite books. If you're new here, my name is Jennifer from Watkins Through Life, and I am doing a challenge this year where every move I make and every book I read is adventurous. The magic of books is how they create an entire world inside of your head. When I read, I envision everything from the mountains to the buildings to the outfits to the rooms, every detail. I see it in my head sketched out in detail. Now, over the last month or so, the internet has been singing the praises of the new AI art interface, DALLE-2, and I'm very interested to put it to the test. Not just any test though, a literary test. I want to see if a computer can see what I see when I'm reading. Are the author's words the magic, or does the magic happen when the reader interprets them? If AI does a fantastic job piecing together images that match the text, then the magic is in the author's words. If we have to adjust the words and change the structure and add different prompts, then the magic happens when we're interpreting them. I went through some of my favorite books and picked out some quotes, so let's go ahead and get going.
These are a lot of the main general vibes that I'm going to be pulling from, and I have started to create a file full of descriptive sections from books that I am looking forward to using today. It pulls everything from Leven, Thumps to The Great Alone to Countess Below Stairs. Anything that is incredibly descriptive is useful for these AI prompt generators. I've changed these quotes from using the voice of the novel to like more of a dungeon master descriptor voice. So the first one is from Countess Below Stairs, and it says, "Facing you is the long avenue of limes, the gatehouse, and beyond it, the village with its simple grey church and trim houses clustered round the green. On your left are the walled gardens and the topiary, to your right, a landscape out of an Italian dream. A blue lake curving away behind the house, a grassy hill topped by a white temple, an obelisk floating above the trees. You can smell freshly cut grass, the blossoming limes, and hear, in the distance, a woman calling her chickens home." So obviously this is going to be too much for DALLE. So I'm thinking I'll begin at the village with its simple grey church and trim houses clustered around the green. And then I'm also going to take part of the next section, a blue lake carving away behind the house, grassy hill topped by a white temple, and I'm going to take away the obelisk floating above the trees because I think that'll make it go sci-fi. Okay, and because this description specifically says an Italian dream, makes me want to do more of a painting. Alright, so let's try post-impressionism. So, the village with its simple grey church and trim houses clustered around the green. I'm going to say clustered round a blue lake curving away behind the house, a grassy hill topped by a white temple, in the style of post-impressionism. Oil painting. And let's just see what we come up with. If you haven't used DALLE before, the way it works is every time you press generate, it uses a credit, and every month you get, it's either 25 or 50, something like that, credits each month. And then you can purchase more credits. It's like 115 credits for $15. So we definitely have the simple grey church and the trim houses clustered around the blue lake that carves behind the house. So I'm going to, I think, take this one and edit it. And I'm never sure how much of this to actually take away. Like, if I take away this description, will it take away what I already have? I'm not sure. So I know that we already have the grey church, the trim houses clustered around the blue lake. So I am going to go ahead and take away that and say large 20th century manor on a hill in the foreground. To make it a little bit easier for the AI, I'm going to take out that tree and soften up these edges. Hopefully that makes it a little bit more of a clean ad. Okay, and then it's going to give us a few options. I don't love how small it is in comparison to the rest. Now this is definitely larger, but a little bit more government building. Okay, that's probably the best so far. I don't like that there's two houses though. I really like how it's set atop the hill, but this looks like a crayon box fell. You know, I think we're actually going to take this one and try and erase the house in the back. With rolling green hills in the background. Okay, that is pretty clean. The hard part is I really like this, but it doesn't quite match the right-hand side. See right here, I like how the two greens line up and the background lines up. On this one, there's kind of a cutoff right there. So we're probably gonna go with this one. And I'll probably go into like Krita or something and just clean up that edge. But other than that, I'm really happy with this. All right, let's do something completely different. In the Great Alone, Kristin and Hannah describes their arrival in the island off of Homer as an incomparable landscape of soaring glacier-filled white mountains that ran the length of the horizon, knife-tip points pressed high into a cloudless cornflower blue sky. The bay is a sheet of hammered sterling in the sunlight. Boats dot the bay. The air smells briny deeply of the sea. Shorebirds float on the wind, dipping and rising effortlessly. Because this is describing a place that is real in the world, I'm going to go for a more photographic style. If I do otherworldly and magical, it's going to go sci-fi, which is not what we want. So we're going to do landscape of soaring, glacier-filled white mountains running the length of the horizon. That's going to be the first part. And we will add the cornflower blue sky. We need to add a foreground and sailboats, why not? Dotting the ocean bay with, we'll do seagulls floating on the wind. Okay, this time we want more of a photograph. So let's go ahead and scroll up to a photograph section. Okay, we want a landscape. Let's add landscape photograph. And then at the end, we can add the depth of field. We're gonna do 35 millimeter. Let's do midday. And let's try it in the style of National Geographic. It's probably the longest prompt I have ever done. All right, so these are not bad. They're a little bit more hazy than I want. I think my favorite out of all of these is going to be this one, just because it has more of the landscape feel. Let's just see what variations comes up with. All right, so looking at these, I think the word that's throwing off the prompt is probably the cornflower blue. That's kind of what the haze looks like, is that shade of color. So let's take away the cornflower blue sky and we'll just rely on the midday, and let's see what that gets us. Much better. It's interesting. I really like this one, but how in what world are those seagulls? This one is really lovely. I do like the composition of this one, how there is more ocean focus. Yeah, this one's definitely going to be the favorite. So let's edit this one and see if we can maybe get rid of some of these birds. Like, I don't know what that is, but those are not birds. I feel like the other ones give enough appearance or thought of a bird that those are fine to keep. And I don't know, if we increase this number, is that a larger depth of field? Let's just see what happens. And I think there's a little bit in the ocean that I would like to just be cleaned up. All right, so let's see what we got. This one, the seagulls are definitely fixed in the sky. Ocean looks a little bit clear with the exception of that whatever is added. This one is better. No. This one is the best. So let's go ahead and favorite this one, and we can download it as well. Now that we've done a photograph, let's jump into maybe some fantasy. This one says, the trees around you begin to bend inward over you. Dark vapors soar through the trees and sweep low over your heads, whispering. The dark shadows gather in front of you in a tall, hissing spiral. Beneath the swirling mass, the ground suddenly erupts, heaving a gigantic mound of rocks, dirt, and twisting foliage. Rising out of the fractured earth, a huge shape emerges. Shaking dirt and tree branches off its massive head and shoulders, it frowns as big as a building, with a thick body, like that of a bullfrog. It stands on 4 sturdy legs with thick scales covering its belly and its white eyes burning over a cavernous, wet mouth. A layer of rocks and dirt covers its back. The beast breathes showering mud and rocks on you. So I think I want to focus more on the dark shadows and the tall hissing spiral. So let's do the trees bending inwards with dark vapors. I'm going to add the forest of trees bending inwards. I realized I had trees in there quite a few times, so let's try background of forest bending inward and dark vapors soaring through the trees. Dark shadows in a tall hissing spiral, gathering in front of teenage boy. For this style, there is an artist who does like sci-fi fantasy, and it has kind of the vibe that I'm wanting for this. I like the gothic fantasy, but there's someone more specific that I was thinking of. Simon Stålenhag, so in the style of Simon Stålenhag. And then I do want to do graphic art or digital art styles, and I need to indicate that to the AI. I love this example of the teddy bear skateboarding. I think it's adorable. Okay, this is way better than anything I thought I was going to get. I love the animation style of this one, but I also love just the dark creepiness of this. Because it is a mid-grade book, I'm leaning towards this one. But like, if this was made into a TV show with like animation stuff, I would want more of this vibe just because it is such a dark moment. Let's do a couple more. I think the next few quotes that I have are from Adventures Wanted, one of my favorite adventure series. There's the Arches, the Ogre's Cavern. Oh, I really like this one. This is the Oracle's Tower. That could translate very nicely. You can see a great white tower standing in a wide open valley below them. Pure white walls run out from the tower, encircling lush orchards and gardens around its base. Beyond the wall, on the southern side of the tower, is a small city made of sand-colored stone. So let's copy this over and see what we can edit out. As good as AI brains are, I'm not sure if they're going to translate as well as human brains do. But I am actually interested to see if we go word for word on this one. If it just to see what it does without changing anything. Wow, so this is it almost looks like Middle East kind of style with the little caps on the wall. The landscaping definitely looks more desertish. I think I want more fantasy art. So Great White Tower standing in a wide open valley. We don't have characters, so let's take out below them. Pure white walls run out from the tower, encircling lush orchards and gardens. And then let's keep beyond the wall. We don't need the southern. And then let's go with digital fantasy art. See, on the right hand side, you're able to see the history of your searches and things that you've made. You can always hide that if you want. Okay, this is way better. Oh my gosh. Okay, I love this kind of style because it is an adventure book and they've come from so far. So to be able to kind of imagine that journey is phenomenal. This one, I don't like how the tower is tilted. This one is more like Lord of the Rings established city. And then this one's more of makes me think of a Shannon Hale book, which is not bad. It's just not the vibe we're going for. We're going to do some edits to this tower because if you notice in the tower, we don't have very crisp lines, and that's something that I want. So I'm going to say Great White Tower with crisp lines. Okay. And then we also have the orchards. It's not in the wall, but I'll take it. And then I might just take away the city description just because that's not relevant to what we're trying to replace. All right, let's see what we got. This is the original, and we were trying to clean up these lines on the tower. It's a little bit better. It's not quite as distracting as the original. I do like the archway. That adds something new, but like, how do you get to that doorway? Okay, this one might be our best bet. The red is a little weird, but I might be able to patch that up in Krita. And honestly, this might be one of my favorite generations that we've made today. I think the main other book that I pulled from was The Family Romanov by Candice Fleming. Everything from the mansion is described to the jewelry they wear, the gowns, just the extraordinary elegance and extravagance they spent on their clothing was unbelievable. It's described as a gold brocade gown shimmering with the thousands of diamonds and pearls that had been sewn onto it, a costume that cost 1 million rubles. Her elaborate headdress glittered with diamonds and emeralds, and Her pearl earrings were so heavy it was hard for her to hold her head up. Around her neck hung an enormous 400-carat blue sapphire. The background image is just one that I found off of a quick Google search, and I think it's going to be hard to beat that just because I love the elegance of it. But let's see what AI does. We don't need to add cost into AI, that'll just confuse it. Let's add the headdress, the earrings, and I want this to be kind of a view from behind. Because each generation costs a credit, I'm always very research oriented in creating my prompt, so I might as well try and get it right the first time. Photograph of woman wearing a gold brocade gown shimmering with thousands of diamonds and pearls sewn into it, and an elaborate headdress glittering. No, let's maybe just do the pearl earrings. Walking away. Okay, long shot photograph of woman walking away wearing a gold brocade gown shimmering with thousands of diamonds and pearls sewn onto it, and pearl earrings. Studio lighting. I think what I'm going to have to do is figure out the woman and then add in descriptions of the background later. Okay, so I love this. This is beautiful. They have issues with hands for some reason. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, but I'm also going to add 20th century. I feel like that'll give us something more specific. Alright, these are definitely more of what I'm looking for, not so much this one, but let's see. The back gets a little bit funky. It's a little bit more of a painting impressionist style by the neck. That is really weird. Don't love the exposed back, but this is beautiful. So I think what I want to do is edit right here. I need it to regenerate that because that's just a hot mess. And then let's bit of a background. Okay, so I can take away the studio lighting and pearl earrings. And let's add in a dimly lit Russian palace. Okay, I like that this one has just like the impression of a doorway coming up. Ooh, this has more of the gown. Take away that hand, like what on earth? I think that's just a little bit too precise for me. But let's go ahead and do variations and see what we get, because I like the back. Wow, that's a little bit more like 1920s America style. That's more Met Gala. Yeah, these are way more Met Gala. And let's go back here. This is probably more like era-esque. Okay, I love the posing and the hands on this one. And I love the added train. Fancy. I do want to see just what it does with this description of the mansion. Realistic photograph at dusk. Okay, this is fabulous. This looks like total party central, although those trees are very precise. Although I think this one might be my favorite. It isn't necessarily crisp and clean around the edges, but I think that's what I like about it. It gives the feeling of life. A little too Christmassy, and don't like the tilty and the weird reflection in the icy river, so let's go ahead and go with this one.
The whole point of this was to see if AI could interpret descriptions in literature to the same caliber as a human mind. And for the most part, I am pretty impressed. We saw with the tower image how AI was able to create a real-life rendering of what the story was describing. And that's without changing any of the author's words. Now, of course, that real-life rendering wasn't exactly what I wanted, so I changed some of the words and descriptions and prompts, but that's changing for what I'm seeing, not for what the author is describing. This gives me the confidence to say that the magic is truly and 100% in the author's words. With any of these prompts, I could have kept the description word by word, and I would have had a phenomenal result. My bias is what changed the process. You see, I've already read these books and created these scenarios in my mind and seen these cities and these dresses, and so I'm wanting DALL-E to create something that doesn't just reflect the text, but also reflects what I've seen in my mind. So I guess in the end, this was less of a test of AI versus author's words and more of a test of AI versus my inner eye. But it was fun and I enjoyed it, and I hope the same goes for you. If you have any recommendations for descriptions or quotes from books that you'd like to see run through DALL-E 2, go ahead and leave them below, and I will make sure to create another video with what those end up looking like. Coming out in a couple weeks is an October update on books that I'm reading, and there's a couple incredible ones in there and a couple real duds. So stay tuned for that. Bye-bye.
Wow, that was my dog's yawn, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
That was quite the yawn.
Good girl, love. But thank you for kisses.